Imagine digging for 200 years and finding nothing. Until now. Oak Island, the land of endless secrets and cursed legends, has finally whispered its truth. Not in gold coins or ancient scrolls, but in something no one ever expected. Beneath the island's muddy veins, strange metals, magnetic anomalies, and an object buried deeper than ever recorded have surfaced. The discovery has shaken historians, stunned scientists, and forced skeptics into silence. This isn't just another clue. It's the revelation that could rewrite everything we thought we knew about Oak Island. So stay till the end, because what was found may not just solve the mystery, it may expose one we never saw coming. First, the soil gave the clue. When samples were taken during the excavation, the scientists found tiny flecks of gold in the ground. No coins, no sticks, just tiny, nearly invisible particles. Something that would be missed by the naked eye but would make investigators pause. As the investigation progressed, one particular spot kept signaling over and over again. It was only the size of a small shed, but every machine, every test, every guess, all led there. The team jokingly called the spot the baby blob, but in reality, something serious could be hiding there. Then an old wooden structure was found, a staircase. It wasn't new and not at all safe. The wood was hand-cut, not machine-cut. It was buried so deep that it seemed like someone had hidden it on purpose, as if someone knew someone would find it one day. When it was put in the XRF machine for testing, the same thing came out again. The amount of gold in that area was much more than normal. The team was sure that even if something big is not found today, that day will definitely come. And then that day came. Something broke at a depth of 90 feet. A loud sound came from under the ground. The machines recorded an empty space where there should have been nothing. The team accelerated the digging. Iron rods were sent down. There was an indication of a tunnel in the depth. Now it was not just digging. It had become a mission. The land of Oak Island was no longer just giving mysteries. It was also giving answers. The real trick of the investigation was revealed when the line of 3 boreholes came into view. All 3 holes straight from east to west in a straight line. This does not happen by chance. There was something under the ground, and that something seemed to have been built by someone. The first clue, wood, and that too which had not been broken recently. The pieces were not small, and neither were they rotten. They seemed worn and carved, as if someone had cut it for some purpose. A treasure chest, a pillar, or something more serious. Then came the real test, traces of gold. Not too many, but enough to prove that the team was not just chasing thoughts. Everywhere, in the water, in the trees, and now in the tunnels too, the same faint golden presence. When Rick saw those figures on the scanner, his eyes stopped for a moment. For years, he was chasing only hopes. Now the hopes were pointing in some direction. Every mistake, every empty excavation now mattered. This time, the treasure was not teasing them. It was telling them something. The team targeted the baby blob again. The machine started running again. Reached 98.5 feet. Another empty space was found. When the core was opened again, the same wood, the same texture, the same color, the same hope. This time the sample was not soil. It was a sign that someone had left there centuries ago. Terry came closer. Charles bent. Everyone wanted to see it closer. Now there was no digging here. Now history was being read here. The true value of each test is evident when the lab report quietly repeats the same thing. This time, the machine was run again after the wood had been dried. Emma froze as she saw the data on the screen. Same thing again. small but clear signs of gold. The wood being tested came from the same area where the presence of gold was first detected in the baby blob. That meant this wasn't an isolated coincidence. It was a pattern. The digging began again. The garden shaft was now vibrating softly. The team reached a quieter section at the bottom where there was less activity but more hope. Brandon and Alex set up a new drill. This time, the digging wasn't straightforward. The drill was rotated at different angles to get data from deep inside the walls. The logic was simple. If there was gold in the water, and the wood absorbed it, the walls of the tunnel would reveal something. Not every hole needed to scream for treasure. Sometimes, a soft rustling sound is enough. At some depth, the drill stopped again. The sound was louder. As soon as it crossed something soft, the machine entered the air again. Another empty space was found, this time also the same depth, 90 feet. Terry took the measurements. This borehole was also in a straight line with the previous two holes from east to west. It was clear all this was done as per plan. This wasn't just an excavation. It was a structure, one built with purpose. The moment he answered the phone, he knew something real had been uncovered. The drill kept pushing deeper. Pressure dropped. Then came the test, and once again, gold. This was no ordinary dig anymore. It was as if the ground itself was confessing, revealing secrets buried for centuries. For the first time, it was giving signs, proof that something lay beneath. Even the mood within the team began to shift. Marty, who always viewed things logically, fell quiet. His eyes scanned the maps, his fingers tracing old diagrams. This was no longer a wild chase. The search now had direction. With every strike of the drill, precision grew. It wasn't guesswork anymore. It was strategy. Each borehole was placed with intent. No more blind attempts. They were chasing something that clearly didn't want to be found. The probe in the garden shaft again detected a hollow space. When pressure touched the walls, tiny wood fragments surfaced. Not splinters, but clean, deliberate cuts. Each piece was carefully tagged and tested. Again, everyone held their breath. The result: gold. No false hope, no illusion. Real evidence. It was clear now. They weren't digging through debris. They were decoding a buried message. Inside the tent, Alex and Brandon stared at the monitor. The depth reading climbed. Then a faint sound, a break, a shift. They were now deeper than where they'd first found the void. Brandon called out the depth. The team demanded everything, every chip, every grain. Nothing discarded. Every fragment would be analyzed. That evening the team gathered once more. Soil, wood, dust. Everything laid neatly across the sample table, each bit a potential clue. The air in the tent was dense with anticipation. Emma began the scan, her fingers flying over the keyboard, her eyes locked on the screen. Nothing about the data looked ordinary, and suddenly, the island seemed to come alive. Signals began lighting up across Oak Island. Rick Lagina's excitement was almost childlike, like someone who'd just discovered treasure candy. Without hesitation, he moved. Soil in one hand, wood in the other, determination on his face. Every old, "maybe there's something here," thought was turning into fact. And he knew Emma was the one who could confirm it. Whether this was truly gold or just another mirage. Meanwhile, Peter Fornetti stood on Lot 26. A woodcutter by trade, today he faced a wall of stones that looked like the ruins of Atlantis itself. What he saw wasn't a random pile. It was a wall, strong, angled, purposeful. The kind of wall built either to hide something or to guard something of great value. Then came the revelation. Layers of small stones beneath it, the same method used in Old English and Scottish castles. Ramke noted it resembled a castle foundation. A castle-like base here, on Oak Island, and near it, a well. But this was no ordinary well. Its design was ancient. One expert even said it matched wells from the 11th century. What could that mean? History itself was unfolding. Sometimes the biggest clues rest in forgotten notes. The soil stirred again when Tom Nolan opened an old notebook that had belonged to his father, Fred Nolan, the man who once found ship parts, a stone cross, and a buried well in the marsh. What made this well unique? It wasn't exposed. It had been deliberately sealed beneath the earth. Most wells on Oak Island stand open. This one was hidden. Someone wanted it to stay unseen. Elsewhere, the digging gained momentum. On Lot 11, Rick and Alex were at work. "If luck's with us, we'll know soon," Rick said. The drill kept descending, every inch promising discovery. Meanwhile, the money pit buzzed with new energy. Charles and Brandon were boring a fresh core. They had reached just 11 feet when the drill jammed. A rock? A door? No one knew. But the air grew thick again. Inside the tent, every breath waited for the next sign. Back in the lab, Emma Culligan had returned, the one with the gold detector. Reich handed her some old samples, and the scans began. "There's something here, a solid section right in the middle," Emma said. The results were clear. The wooden lining of the shaft held traces of gold. The question wasn't how it got there, but who had done it. Why would anyone use gold in a structure that seemed meaningless, unless they were protecting something of great value? The data Emma revealed made perfect sense scientifically. Not massive numbers, but enough to electrify the room. Marty's eyes gleamed. The energy changed instantly. This wasn't just theory anymore. It was something tangible. Then came the next surprise. Bricks, real ones, likely part of the original shaft's walls. The question was no longer just about depth. Maybe the treasure wasn't buried straight down. Maybe it was hidden sideways, in a vault, a chamber, tucked off to the side. Meanwhile, an old discovery from 2016 had to be verified. In New Ross, a similar well had been found. Same design, same depth. Some said it was once a Templar hideout. Peter Ramke, a tree cutter with a passion for stonework, stood before a particular wall on Lot 26. The stones weren't random. They formed a pattern. These small foundation stones, Ramke noted, look like classic castle bases, like the ones built in England or Scotland. If something like this exists on Oak Island, it didn't happen by chance. And real progress in any dig comes when you find hard proof, especially metal. This time, when the soil from the new site was examined, Gary Drayton uncovered a rose head nail, handmade, dating back to 1795, from a time when structures were built to conceal as much as to stand. Then came an iron hook, the kind used for pulling up water, or maybe for pulling up something else. Gary mentioned that a similar hook had been found earlier on Lot 8, from the 1600s. Same make, same intent, same unsettling sense of purpose. Putting the nail, the hook, and the wall together didn't suggest a normal well. It looked like part of a larger plan. As the dig went deeper, the new well began to mirror the one on Lot 26. Same layers, same craftsmanship. The same quiet whisper that these weren't accidents, but pieces of something bigger. Then came the next revelation. Silver. Not gold this time, but unmistakable traces of silver. This wasn't coincidence anymore. Oak Island wasn't hinting. It was shouting. Two wells on opposite ends of the island, built in the same style, hidden with the same care, possibly serving the same mysterious purpose. These builders weren't just leaving clues. They were creating a map. a map buried in the soil itself, and if the team could read it right, the treasure so many had mocked might finally be revealed. But it wouldn't come easy. The swamp nearby made digging risky. Environmental laws, government permissions, any of it could halt the mission at any moment. Elsewhere, away from the chaos, Emma Culligan was back at work in the Interpretive Center. An archaeologist by trade, she specialized in examining ancient metal and wooden artifacts, figuring out if they were treasures or just forgotten fragments. This time, she was testing wood from 58 feet deep in the garden shaft. It wasn't ordinary waterlogged timber. It held history. The scanner buzzed. The report appeared. Gold again. Not much, but enough to make the entire team pause. And the deeper they dug, the stronger the signal grew. Each layer, each sample, carried the same golden trace. It was as though Oak Island itself kept whispering, "Go deeper." And now, the picture was coming together. Someone had been here long before, leaving tunnels, shafts, and maybe a trail leading straight back to the 1500s. On the other side of the site, Craig Tester was working with his team. He only smiled when the soil passed through the sieve. At this point, the Duma drilling team had reached 68 feet, and the goal was 80 feet. Their goal was clear: to waterproof every level, extract clean samples, and hope that the next centimeter might hold the key to some big secret. The strongest thing in any discovery is a reason, and here the team had that reason. First traces of gold were found in the wood. Then something like a tunnel was found at a depth of 98 feet. And when signs of silver and gold also started coming from the surrounding area, the garden shaft was now becoming a center, not just a pit. Paul Cott of the drilling team has a clear method: 12 boreholes in a set with planning in a specific structure. These people are not digging the ground just like that. They are making a map of the surroundings. What is hidden around this pit? If gold is found in these boreholes too, then it will prove that this is not just a search for treasure, but part of a bigger plan. Things started getting strange in the excavation of Lot 13. There is a place called the Quadrilateral, a geometric structure of stones in 4 corners, as if someone has placed it there after thinking something. As the excavations continued, pieces of burnt wood, strange soil, and ash were found, as if someone had been burning something there centuries ago. These things did not match the normal soil there, meaning either something was hidden or all this was brought there for some purpose. At the same time, another old discovery came to mind: a stone road found in the swamp. At first, everyone thought it was just a coincidence, but then a similar design was found in Portugal. The method was the same: the stone-laying technique of the 1400s to the 1500s. Now it does not seem like a coincidence. Now things are starting to connect. Burnt wood, strange structures, layers of gold in the soil, roads, and a special kind of blue soil. All were telling the same story. The story was not just underground, but inside history. Rick Lagina does not think this is a normal structure. He believes it is a vault, a hidden structure specifically covered with blue clay to protect it from water and sealed with rocks on top. Now, Dr. Ian Spooner enters the field. He is a scientist. He speaks plainly and clearly. When he saw blue clay fused with burnt wood in the soil during the excavation, he also paused. This was not natural. It was manufactured. The soil was not typical of the area, too dense, too rich, and clearly disturbed. This was not just a place, it was a sin. A place that had been altered by humans with the intention of hiding, protecting, and closing something. As the Oak Island excavations grew more intense, so did the curiosity. And soon, a small lab was created to find answers. In the beginning, It had only a few machines and limited tools. But now it's evolved into a full-time, year-round research center. With a new building, advanced technology, and samples arriving from beyond Nova Scotia, the lab has become a trusted hub for archaeologists who want to study complicated materials. Packed with scanners, analyzers, and specialized instruments rarely found in smaller labs, lead examiner Emma Culligan conducts surface-level testing, collecting data from the outer layer of an object without ever cutting into it. Every sample that arrives at the Oak Island lab starts with the same question: what exactly is this? The first step is always identification. The team needs solid proof, not assumptions. Each material, whether it's iron, copper, or wood, behaves differently. Even the slightest vibration from a machine can alter the results. That's why Emma reports her findings in weight percent, which shows how much of an element is present on the surface, rather than using complex measurements. So when 0.11% gold was detected, it might have seemed tiny, but on mysterious Oak Island, it was enough to set off alarms. Emma's lab receives all kinds of items: old tools, bits of wire, nails, and wooden fragments from the ongoing digs. Each one is analyzed, documented, and catalogued. Whether the item turns out to be historic or ordinary, every detail helps build the larger story. Today, the lab doesn't just test, it also conserves, carefully cleaning and preserving objects so they remain usable for future study. Emma didn't plan on this career path. She joined as part of a summer project, but now she's become an essential member of the research center. Her earlier work analyzing Portuguese nails that contained traces of gold made her the perfect match for the job. Accuracy is everything in this work. A single mistake can ruin a sample or send the whole team down the wrong path. Sometimes, the smallest details reveal the biggest clues, like beeswax found on a piece of iron, suggesting that the metal had been cared for. Beeswax was expensive back then, and its presence tells a story. Soil samples do too. Pollen and dirt can reveal where trees once stood or where people farmed. Each layer of evidence shows how the land has changed over time. One major goal is to connect these findings with museums around the world. By sharing data, a broken piece found in one place could link to a historical artifact somewhere else. Of course, not everything they find is treasure. Most discoveries, a nail, a lid, a broken tool, aren't rare or ancient. Still, everything gets scanned and recorded. Even false leads matter because they help create a baseline that makes identifying truly historic items easier. The lab operates non-stop. Data is often uploaded from home, and scanning continues through the night. It's not about the hours. It's about finding answers. Every machine has a purpose. One analyzes minerals, another studies structure, and a third looks deep inside. Together, they form a puzzle-solving team. One researcher scanned over 200 coins, some with holes, some gold, some ancient, and each one added a piece to the larger mystery. Hundreds of objects are uncovered every year. Some appear on camera, most don't. Some are marked for later study, while others simply wait in drawers. Emma's favorite place? The lab? Her favorite finds? Maybe a rusted metal grill coated in wax, a token with a hole in it, or an ordinary-looking iron piece that hides a surprise inside. It doesn't have to shine. It just has to be real.